Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and I think most of us don't tell the people who are on our air quote board of directors that they're on our board. Joe, I know I'm pretty much the chairman of your board, but you've never once told me that I'm on your board of directors.
You have any words, coach, for the team?
Rah, rah, ree. Kick him in the knee. Rah, rah, ras. Kick him in the other knee.
Wow, he has never coached a team in his life.
Go out there and bite him in the kneecaps.
We just got to go out there and play our game, and stick to the fundamentals and just do what we do best. Just focus.
If we score more touchdowns than the other team, we will win, kids. We will win. Let's talk about how we're misusing credit in America.
First of all, people think credit is money. Start there. It's not. The most dangerous thing in my wallet today, Joe, is my American Express Black Card. Because this thing here, and it's sexy, and it looks nice, and it's pretty, there's no limit on it. But that's not even a credit card. This is a charge card, which means in 30 days, I gotta pay the whole balance. A lot of people get in trouble. You start seeing celebrities in their bankruptcies and people who won the lottery or whatever. You see this credit card stuff because they thought this was an extension of their wallet. It's not meant to be an extension on your annual compensation.
There, Stackers. Welcome to a recording of our Friday Stacking Benjamin show. I'm Joe Saul-Sehy, and here comes the team. On today's show, we'll be recording a show that you're going to hear actually in a couple weeks because we're recording ahead because most of us have plans for Thanksgiving. So we're getting just a week out. So this is going to be
I went down there today. What a cluster.
This is going to be 2 Fridays from now. Say hi to Mom for us.
Yeah, no kidding. I didn't know that was all hooked up there. Yeah. You want to hear the message she left? It's not. I can tell it's not PG-13.
Yes.
I heard you cut it right at the start of a word that I don't think we needed.
Okay. Well, maybe I won't play it then.
Yeah.
I mean, Doug wants me to.
We all know who runs the ship around here.
I don't want the YouTuber to be mad at us.
We don't want to get kicked off YouTube already.
Again.
Again. For the 18th time. All right. We're going to record this live. Say hi in the chat. We'd love to hear your thoughts about this topic. And Jesse Cramer, it's like he's running for office.
Yeah, what? Is Nixon here?
Saying hi.
Oh, that's what that was. That was, I don't know what these are.
It was Spock, right? This little Spock.
Oh,
little emblem. Do you guys see my name? Do you guys see my name here?
Spock
Gotcha.
Live long and spit on that thing.
Whoa.
On with the show.
So-
And I can't play mom's message.
Yeah. Okay. Play the damn message.
The greatest money show on earth. Keep going. Sorry.
you may see things, people, that will get cut out of the actual podcast today, which is good. All right, we ready to record this? Or OG, you gonna play the message for us?
I can. Yeah. I
Yeah.
know. Message from
Let's see.
mom. Message from mom. Yeah, I know the context, but y'all won't. But message from mom.
Kids may want to leave the room.
Kids should leave the room.
Talk to you later.
Oh, hold on.
Good thing I went down there today. What a clusterfuck. Talk to you later. Bye.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm
Thanks,
actually
Mom.
disappointed. Knowing the saltiness of your mom, I'm kind of disappointed. I think she's got more saltiness in her.
Sorry.
Well,
I didn't know what was going to happen. I just
But Paula, could you believe that those words would come out of OG's mom's mouth? I mean, look at how clean cut OG is, and he never gets salty about anything.
it's ridiculous.
It's what's wild.
You
All
kiss
right.
your mom with that?
We're going to make the show. You'll notice if it's your first time with us live that there'll be no musical interludes. Those all get edited by our friend Steve Stewart later on
Like
as
this.
he edits the show. Yes, we may have some of those. All right, Doug, you ready to start?
Can I hear mom's message? No. Yes, I can start.
Yeah, somebody's got
Okay.
chatter in the back.
3, 2, 1. Live from the basement of the YouTube headquarters, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and you know how there are laws of the universe? How about laws of financial health? Well, one blogger says there are 4. What are they? How do you fast track them? On today's roundtable discussion, we welcome the woman who's fast tracking her way to affording anything, Paula Pant. And she's joined by a man who's hoping his newborn fast tracks her way to a nap, the host of the Best Interest podcast, Jesse Cramer. And the guy fast tracking his way to nowhere. It's a long story. We'll get to it later. It's our own OG. But that's not all. Halfway through, we'll follow the law of this podcast, which is that we always stop and contemplate my mind-bending trivia. And now a guy whose personal law states that it's always about the donuts. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
I think it's got to be law number 1 in the universe, Doug. It's always about the donut. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Friday here in Mom's Basement. We are partying with you, so sit back and relax because we've got a great topic today and a wonderful crew. So let's meet them, starting with the guy across the table from me whose leg may or may not be. Well, OG, you're on the injured reserve, I hear.
I was upgraded today from doubtful to day-to-day. So that's pretty nice. Feeling pretty good about that. Got some treatment. I don't know what else to say. Those are the only things I know in the context. I had a sports-related non-contact injury on Saturday and tore my calf muscle. But
Have there been injections or just pills?
huh? Oh, and the treatment?
Yeah.
Yes.
Really, I'm on the ice and compression path.
Boring.
Yeah, I'm not that important. I'm not a starter, so I don't get the stem cell treatment.
You
to
got
make
the
sure I can.
rub some dirt on it, kid.
I got a little of that. Yeah.
Wait a minute. So is this a sports injury or is this that type of injury you get when you're older where you like woke up funny or, got up too fast and then something strained? How did it happen?
It involved sport. Yep. Of some kind. And I was doing something and it just, took a step funny. It's the thing I don't talk about, so I'm not going to really talk about
Oh,
Is
But
sport a euphemism?
it. It's
that's
not.
what I was wondering, Paula.
Yes.
It's the
Wait,
thing
which
nobody
leg did
talks
you
It was
break?
a
about.
Why
sport
does-
injury? No. I've been married 25 years. There's no sport injuries. That would be a great story. That'd be
Fantastic.
like, let's have another sport injury, sweetheart.
We would all happily get injured.
I know, no kidding. No, this was definitely something that I do quite regularly in the fall, and but the funny thing was that I never stretch, and this week I stretched, and then this happened. So I'm gonna go back to
See
not
there,
stretching again.
that's the point, right?
Do not stretch. That's the moral of that story.
Right. That's why the one comedian, David Tell, Doug, remember that? That's
I
why
do.
David Tell said he never runs 5Ks because it's always the jogger who finds the body in the park.
Yep.
You never find it while you're eating donuts sitting on your couch. You're just not involved. It's great. And by the way, the woman with all the journalistic questions asking about whether it's a euphemism, Paula Pant here. How are you?
I'm doing well. What can I say? Oh, I early voted to. Oh, I guess this is going to be outdated because of this when this airs. I was going to say I early voted today, but by the time this airs, that will be old news. So never mind.
Okay. Give it away.
Your
Give it
vote
away.
counted though,
Yeah,
and
your vote
by the time you hear this,
somebody
it's a whole
won.
new world. It's a
exactly.
brave new world.
Yes.
One way or
No,
the
or
other.
it's not. My money's on. We probably have another 3 weeks till we figure out who won.
You think it's a
right?
tie? You're gonna go hanging Chad?
I'm not going that. I'm just going that they're recounting the votes for the 57th time.
At the moment, the polling is as we record this, the polling is showing that this is set to be the closest race in 24 years.
Wow.
Holy moly.
What happened 24 years ago? Which one was that?
I think that was the hanging Chad one.
Yeah, Gorbush.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah. Oh my.
Jeez, that
That was 24 years ago.
Can you believe it?
I was like, my brain immediately went to, let's see, Nixon.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was Carter 24 years ago.
Garfield and Cleveland.
Dukakis, Michael Dukakis. Where was
everybody's ass? Like I literally went back 50 years, not 25.
Yes,
Oh,
same,
gross.
same. Yep,
Gross.
I was thinking. Okay, 24 years ago, so the 1970s.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right.
And on that note, I have no transition. Jesse Cramer's here with us. How are you, Jesse?
Hey, I'm doing good, but it was when OG was talking about his injury, I've been diagnosed. I'm permanently concussed. So if I'm a little bit slow today or in general, it might just be I've been living in the concussion tent. I thought maybe OG and I could talk about our experiences in together, but other than that, doing great, doing really good. Doing really good.
Do you blame like your slowness all the time? Oh, I'm sorry, I have a concussion.
That's one of my go-tos.
One of your
Yeah.
go-tos.
Yeah.
Just throw it back on him.
That took me back to the days of when Len Penzo would set us up with a joke. When he said, "I'm permanently concussed," I just waited for that to be a zinger. But no, that's just the crutch you're leaning on.
Yeah. Len and I, we occasionally share ideas. We actually don't. I haven't met Len, but no, on with the show. On with the show.
Deal. You know what we're gonna get on with, Jesse?
A cool sponsor.
Well, specific cool sponsor, State Farm. This episode is brought to you by State Farm. If you own a small business, whatever your business might be, you need someone who understands and maybe that hasn't been concussed. And that's where State Farm small business insurance comes from. State Farm agents, they're small business owners too, and know what it takes. They can help you choose personalized policies that fit your budget. Small business insurance from State Farm. Ready? Like a good neighbor. State Farm is there. Talk to your local agent today. Oh, it's so fantastic that State Farm's on board. So fantastic. You guys are all here. We're going to talk about the 4 laws of personal finance. Are there 4 laws? Does this blogger that we're going to talk about today have it right? Are there more laws? Do these laws stink? Or are they fantastic? And if they are fantastic, how do you fast track them, get them into your life and avoid making mistakes? We're going to go into all that. But before that, we have a couple more sponsors that make this show free so that we can keep bringing it to you every week. We're going to hear from them and then we're off and running. 3, 2, 1. Jesse's here. Paula's here. OG and Doug. Let's get the party started. Today, we're going to go to a Substack. I don't know that we've done a piece on Substack yet. I can't believe it's taken us this long, but hello, Substack. Stacking Benjamins is finally here. We have done a Substack piece before. This is The Uncertainty of It All blog from writer Mark Newfield, and it's the laws of financial health. And this piece starts off with a guy named Phil Perlman, who has 4 simple rules he developed regarding long-term health and wellness. Isn't that Feeding Phil, the shows that are on I don't know, cable TV, whatever the TV channels are? I think it is. Is that Phil Perlman?
Phil Perlman is like a stock twits guy, Wall Street guy. I had him on his podcast. Or on my podcast rather. That's how I know. But he's like this Wall Street behavioral finance guy who kind of segued into health more recently and works with a lot of people in the finance space on their own health.
So he's not the Feeding Phil guy. He
Correct.
wants to be the Feeding
Correct.
Phil
They
guy.
might have the same name, but not the same person.
Well, they might. Swing and a miss. Welcome to the Things I Could Have Looked Up Before We Went Live podcast, but I didn't. Anyway, this led the author Mark here to ask, with prompting of someone on Twitter, how many personal finance books do you actually need? Like, how many different rules are there, right? And he came up with 4 of them. I want to start off with this premise, though, Paula.
Mhm.
This idea that Mark has around simplification.
Yeah.
Like, it seems to me this is a good thing. Like, I think when you first become a money nerd, you're so overwhelmed with all these different concepts, all this stuff, and your brain trying to simplify it probably is a wonderful place to start.
Yeah, I think it's a good approach because he is correct. At the core, like when you boil it down, the essence of good financial management is actually quite simple. And everything that we talk about, should I put my money into a tax deferred account or a tax exempt account? And what percentage should go into which bucket? Like, all of that is really optimizing around the margins. And it's important, it matters, but the foundation of it is spend less than you make, right? And if you're not doing that, then none of the rest of it, you're not ready for any of the rest of it yet.
Oh, gee, we learned a little bit about this in Strategic Coach, the coaching that you and I both get. There's 2 types of people. There's simplifiers and multipliers, they say, and you and I are both simplifiers.
I mean, I'm 100% a simplifier for sure. But I think, looking at money from from that standpoint, or health or whatever, it's these big broad brush strokes. There's some benefit to all the different things, in terms of like what Paula was talking about of, tax deferred or tax free, and, like there's benefit there, but you're going to get the biggest lever with a few key ideas. Take like asset allocation or investment performance, for example. 90% of your results is just where the stuff is. Do you have big companies or small companies? Do you have US based ones and non-US based ones? That's 90% of the battle. Yeah, there's still opportunity with that other 10%, but get the 90% done first. Focus on that, and then you can, nickel and dime the other things.
You didn't take the bait. I said you and I are both simplifiers, and you were nice enough to let that go. That was good.
Well, I don't know if you are or not, actually. I think my guess would be that you're a multiplier, actually, but
very, very much.
Yeah.
Very, very much.
That's why we work well together, honestly.
I need to remind myself,
multipliers.
And I need myself to hang out with you to simplify stuff more. It's crazy. Law number 1, Paula nailed it. Jesse, let's start with you on law number 1. She said, spend less than you make. And that's number 1 on Mark's list. Mark writes, our society's evolved into one that consistently and constantly encourages you to spend. I mean, Jesse, the marketing messages are all around you. It's harder than it looks to spend less than you make.
Could you imagine a world without advertising? It's so it's just embedded in our culture in such an interesting way. I mean, think about the cave people, like, however many years ago that was. No advertising, or at least if it was like
life was great back then. It was awesome.
I didn't say that, OG. It's different. All I said was imagine. I said
Is
imagine.
that how far we have to go back to find people who didn't live above their means?
Potentially.
Probably.
But no, I mean,
People with no means. If you don't have any means, you can't live above it.
There you. That's my new tagline.
But yeah,
this Mammothon is brought to you by. Yeah.
Now, there's no shortage of things to spend money on, and then there's no shortage of people out there trying to influence you to spend money on those things. I think that was your point, Joe, and no, it's totally true. And listen, we're all here. We all either work in some sort of capacity with helping people organize their finances, or it's the kind of content that we produce here. And we've all heard the stories of people who simply can't out earn their spending habits. And basically they go nowhere. It's like Paula said, it is the foundation. It is the foundation upon which your financial building gets built. And if it's not a sound foundation, then the building's definitely going to fall down.
Here's how foundational it is, Paula. I'm thinking of two people, and their core messages are specifically in this area. Two financial quote gurus. The first one is a big financial guru that, frankly, more people listen to, I think, than any personal finance podcast, whatever it might be, than anybody. You know who I'm talking about there.
I have a guess. Mm-hmm.
Yes, somebody in Nashville.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly who I was guessing.
Yes. So Mr. Ramsey, but then for the FIRE movement, there's one blog post that when you're around FIRE people, they're like, I was tired of my job, and I put into Google, like, how do I quit my job? And up came this piece from.
Yeah. Should I say the name?
Go ahead.
Mr. Money Mustache.
Yes. And his viral piece is called
The Shockingly Simple Math to Early Retirement,
which is spend less than you make, if I remember right.
Well, yes. In that piece, he also illustrates the reason it went so viral is because he illustrates the math of how if you were to live on 50% of your income, this is how quickly, at assuming, normal market returns, this is how quickly you would be able to replace that 50% of your income that you're living on. So he lays it out in a graph, and he shows you, hey, you would, if you can get used to living on half of your income, you can generate that half from your investments shockingly fast.
I think, OG, you would agree this has got to be, if not law number one, very close to law number one.
Well, I'm thinking about a couple of scenarios. I'm thinking about the person that is, the person that has whatever, $40,000 of income or $50,000 of income going, it's really snug around here. It's really snug. And certainly all the message of like, cut your spending and don't go out to eat and stuff like that. It's like, if I'm making 40 grand a year, I'm not going out to eat. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. I'm not doing that. I'm living in a tiny apartment. I've got 3 roommates. I'm doing all those things, and I'm still kind of at this thing. Then I think the number, or the job number one is, how do we raise your income? Because we've talked about this before. We can raise your income to infinity. There is no limit to how much money you can earn in a year, right? I mean, within reason, I suppose, but you get the idea. But you can only cut your expenses to so much. So I think if you're in that stage of, yeah, I don't think I actually make enough money to have that buffer, then you have to focus on the other thing. I think that the biggest thing when it comes to spending and income is, and I know he talks about this, is that lifestyle creep component, right? And the more I think about this, the more I think about, you just have to hit pause for a short period of time. You have to, if you think about your expenses increasing, your income increasing, if every time it's like right at the exact same amount, you're always going to be, lips just above water, right? And to, what Jesse said earlier, it's like, if you're not doing it with 50K, you're not going to do it with 70, you're not going to do it with 100. That's a foundational thing, because you can't out earn your bad spending. So if you can just pause it for a short period of time, establish what that gap is going to be, whether it's 10% or 20% or whatever, and then let lifestyle creep happen, like then do it, you've got that permanent 20% gap where you're like, sweet, I can raise every time I get a raise. I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to keep saving my money in my 401k in the same percentage. And that gap consists forever. It's really, I think a lot of times with money, we look at it and say, oh God, it's like dieting, right? I can never eat bread again. This sucks. I like bread. It's like, well, no, it's not forever. It's just, tighten a little bit first, and then now you can eat bread later. You just can't eat bread all the time. You have to hit
I gained
pause
it all
for a second.
back.
Yeah. Well, no, but within reason, right? Like you
Sure,
can have cookies, you just can't only have cookies.
Yes.
And early on, you can't. For the first little bit, you can't have any cookies. That's just how it is. You have to get that gap, then you can have a cookie later.
This house is a prison. I have a question for all four of you. Why do you think, whenever we're having this conversation, why do you think people generally gravitate first towards cost cutting instead of income adjustment?
Oh, Paula.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
has
over
the
that
answer.
one.
Yes,
Look
I
at
have
that.
a theory. So I think it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, there is ironically, immediate gratification, right? Increasing your income, there's a ramp. It takes a while to do that. The fastest way to increase your income is some gig economy. Okay, you can drive for DoorDash or Uber. Sure.
OnlyFans.
Yes, exactly. Doug, I mean, you with that is clearly what you were
Exactly.
born for.
It works for some of us, some people, I mean.
But especially if you want to build some type of scalable business, if you want to, I don't know, you want to start selling candles on Amazon or whatever, or you want to open you're a graphic designer, you want to open a consulting arm or a freelance arm, and develop that side business. It takes a while, so you don't get that immediate gratification. Whereas there is an immediate payoff as soon as you cut. So I think that's one reason. Also, there's no fear of failure. If you're trying to grow a business, there's a fear of failure associated with it. So you have to face your insecurities. That doesn't happen when you cut back. And it's also tangible, right? Like growing a business is amorphous, but like not going to restaurants is immediate. It's a tangible thing.
Jesse, if we want to fast track this from the side of either making money or cost cutting, let's talk about some hacks, some tips. What's tip number one to help you begin spending a lot less than you make?
I think tip number one has to be actually measuring what you're spending. And again, it's super simple. It's a super simple tip. Like this whole list is super simple, but the number of conversations I have where I ask someone, how many dollars did you spend last month? Round to the nearest 500, right? Was it 5,500? Was it 6,000? Was it 6,500? And the answer comes back, I have no idea. I don't do a budget. I don't track anything. I don't use any sort of tool. I mean, that has to be step one. Because I mean, that's the only way you're going to be able to look under the hood and say, oh, wow, I spent $1,400 on Doug's OnlyFans account last month.
Again,
right. For the third month straight. And
subscription.
And right. And you have to ask yourself that value proposition, the foot pics just aren't worth it anymore. So maybe you cut that out.
You have to screenshot them. Obviously,
Unless
and you save them for yourself.
Hey, don't give him any ideas. Taking money out of my mouth.
He's running a business here, OG.
My bad.
Anyway, but on a serious note, you have to measure. You have to measure in some way, shape, or form. Some people budget ahead of time. Some people track the numbers after the fact. But I don't think I know anybody who's financially successful who simply doesn't measure what they spend, or that doesn't care what they spend. You have to measure.
Jesse, to your point, back when I was a financial planner, I would ask this, or I'd even ask, how much do you think you had withheld this year in taxes? And people would miss it by a factor of 10.
Right, right.
We're just so far off. It's actually worse than our trivia, right? we get it so bad. OG, what's another quick tip or hack for somebody to spend less than they make?
I think when you kind of dovetail to what Jesse said here, when it comes to budgeting or looking at your cash flow, I think that the best way to do it is to just live your life and keep track of it. And then when you're making decisions, remember that everything counts in that decision. So many times people look at their expenses and say, well, I have to have a car. And so I can't get rid of my car payment, or I have to live in this apartment. I can't change. It's like, no, those things are all changeable. Those big numbers are changeable. And everything has to be fair game. You may choose, but just make a conscious choice. I'm going to have a car payment that's $800 a month, despite the fact that, it's a terrible financial decision. but be okay with the fact that you're making that decision. Don't just abdicate that and say, oh, I don't have to, I can't do anything with that. You can go sell the car with negative equity and go buy a crappier one and get a $300 payment instead of $800. It's doable. It's not fun to do, but it's doable.
Well, and on that line, OG, I like the advice to start with the big stuff, right? Everybody starts with the small things.
Yeah.
So start with your housing. Start with the car. Start with
housing, transportation, and food.
Yeah. Paula, what's another hack to get on the right track? He's got one here in the second sentence.
So, well, all right. So he says, I'm trying to do this from memory. The corollary to spending less than you earn is paying yourself first, which is, oh, wow. Look at that memory. Look at that memory.
Bam.
The corollary
Automate it.
Yeah. Well, it's not just automated. It's decide how much you want to save, pull that off the top first, and then live on the rest. So it's functionally the anti-budget, right? You're choosing that savings rate, whether it's a raw dollar amount or a percentage of your income, and that's coming off the top first, and then you naturally then have to adjust to whatever is left over.
I think for a lot of people that try to do that first because they don't want to budget, what I would often hear is, well, I don't budget. I just pay myself first. And I'm like, so where did all this credit card debt come from? If you don't do what Jesse talked about for a while.
Pay myself first.
Right. I pay my first, then I pay Citibank second. Right.
Right. Yeah, that only works in a debt-free context.
Yeah, at least for a while. You got to get on board with how much you're spending. Number 2 on this list, Jesse, understand how much savings is needed to achieve your goal. Do you see this as one of the big 4 like he does?
That's a good question. Do I see it as one of the big 4? I mean, I definitely see its importance. Let me start with that, and I'll kind of dive down that path a little bit. The idea that, at least my approach to financial planning is, right, what are your future goals? How much money you're going to need to get to accomplish those goals? How far out in the future is your timeline to that goal? And then we can work backwards to figure out a savings rate that's appropriate or an investment asset class that's appropriate for that specific goal. So to that end, it's like, yeah, you do need to understand how much you need to achieve your goals. Now, is this one of the top 4? It might be. It's definitely very important. Let me put it that way. And I do think it's part of just about every single financial plan that anyone could put together for themselves or their family. I mean, after all, what's the point of all this? The point of all this is that you're working hard. Ideally, you're putting some money away after step 1, and you're applying that money to your future goals so that you can live some sort of better lifestyle or lifestyle that you want for you and your family. So as I'm meandering around this answer, Joe, I think I'm settling on that. Yes, I agree with it, and I do put it in the top 4.
OG, you think this is in the top 4?
I do. I think that there's another reason for it, not just knowing how much you're going to save, but know when your savings is good enough. There's so many people, and this is far fewer people than are the other side. So the one side of the coin is I'm not saving enough money, right? I have no idea how much I need to have, and I'm not saving anywhere remotely close. But there's another side for successful people, and they get kind of trapped into that success of continuing to save money when they don't actually have to. And that's not necessarily a good thing either. If you don't have a purpose for your money, then you're going to make bad choices with it. And once you get to the point where, from a savings or investing standpoint, that you're on track for your goals, you need to have a serious discussion, I think, about what do you want to do with the rest of the money? If you're in your peak earning years and you've been saving your whole life, and you have a huge portfolio and life is good, and you've still got this mentality of, I still need to save like 30% of my income, otherwise I'm not. No, you're good. You can do something else with that 30%. You can benefit somebody right now. You can take 30% time off. You can spend that time with your family. Like, back to conscious decision making. Make a conscious choice for your time and resources that make the most sense for your family. Many times people are on the right track and then just keep on doing it, and then it's like, now you're way overfunded. You can't get that time back. You can't have that time with your family, or you can't have that time that you could be doing other things, or those resources that you could be benefiting other people with right now, if that's important to you. So So I think having that goal in mind of I need to be on this path helps to prevent you from saving too little, which is probably the far greater problem. But then also saving too much and know when you're good.
Yeah, I mean, this reminds me of this conversations we had, the conversation we had with Seth Godin, where Seth was talking about strategy. And the average person's like, why do I need a strategy? And Paula, this reminds me of the kind of stuff you talk about. He's like, it isn't so much, he says strategy, and people in business say strategy, but in your personal life, we call it intentionality. We call it about not wandering around. Why are we so afraid of setting up these concrete goals, right? You see, it's funny. OG talks about this. Jesse talks about this. You and I talk about this. And yet, yes, the average person out there, even though we've been saying it forever, what is your concrete goal? Well, I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air about what I really, really want. We take forever to set a goal.
I think to some people, goals feel limiting, right? Because they'll see that as the closing of other doors. So I think that what is important is, to anybody who might feel that way, I'd like to convey the message that you are not shackled to your goal. You have the freedom to choose to change that goal at any point. But it's important to have a goal, even if you're going to change it later, because going in some direction, no matter which one it is better than going in no direction at all.
So is that then, because I'm going to ask everybody for their hack on this side. I think your hack then would be set something.
Yeah,
Just set something.
Exactly. It's like when you begin your career, like I have friends who they never quite knew what they wanted to do. And so they just worked a whole bunch of odd jobs. And then eventually they turned 30 and they're like, all right, I've just been working odd jobs throughout my entire 20s. Versus I know other people who they picked something and they got career related experience in a field. And then later, even if they decided to pivot their field, they still had skills, they had references, like, even if they decided to make that career change at the age of 30, they had a much stronger foundation that allowed them to go into that change from a stronger position than the people who had just been working odd jobs.
It reminds me of a discussion I had with David Green about the same thing. I mean, he was working at Baskin Robbins, and his first job, Paula, his first goal was not a big one. It was just to make the kind of money that his brother was making, bussing tables at a Mexican restaurant instead of working at Baskin Robbins. Then he ends up with a manager at Quiznos, and he slowly makes his way up to being the number one waiter at a high-end restaurant in his community.
Wow.
Just making money hand over fist. And all the skills he made to then now negotiate these big real estate deals he did, because he knows how to make people happy. He knows how to talk to people. He knows how to move at a pace that a lot of people don't know. Yeah. Those are all, and it was just from not working at Baskin Robbins. Goal number one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Jesse, well, what's a hack in this area?
Well, the whole goals question made me think of, wasn't it here a few weeks ago when we talked about quests, going on quests over setting goals?
Yes.
Something along those lines.
Yeah, love it.
And what your original question, Joe, was like, well, we're all goal-oriented, or at least we say we're goal-oriented. And a lot of people say they're goal-oriented, and yet they don't always set goals. Why? And I think one of the things we discussed then that popped back into my head is, well, if I don't set a goal, then I'm by definition not going to fail, right? If I want to retire by 50 with $2 million, I'm setting that mile marker out there. And it's a little scary because now I'm setting myself up for the potential of failure. Whereas if I just say, I just want to save some money and we'll see what happens and we'll figure it out in the long run. Well, okay, the fear of failure isn't really there because I haven't really defined a goal yet. So I wonder, I'm playing armchair psychologist here a little bit, but I wonder if in the back of people's heads, whether they realize it or not, that fear it exists.
You know what's funny is I think of the quote, the Michelangelo quote, as you're talking, Jesse, which I have to remind myself of all the time. It's better to make a really, really big goal and not reach it than to make that goal that's super easy to get and I easily achieve it.
It's funny. A lot of people compare me to Michelangelo, but they're referring to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, not the famous Italian.
Yeah, well, that one's cool too, right? Yes.
Cheese pizza.
You love pizza. Absolutely. We're going to stop right there. We've got 2 more of these to get into. But before that, at the halfway point of every Friday podcast, we pause for this year-long competition, which got interesting before the end of our 8 weeks, which is Paula Pant had a necessary and big win, which meant that Paula has 10. She's only 1 behind Mom now with 11. OG's got 15. Jesse's playing on behalf of Mom. So Jesse needs to make a move. Paula needs to make a move. OG's trying to wrap this thing up with just a few to go. Who's going to win? Well, we need a question. Doug, what's our trivia question today?
Hey there, Stackers. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. And on today's date in history, pop group Milli Vanilli was exposed as lip-syncing their hit song, Girl, You Know It's True. Okay.
Wow.
You thought I played like the actual song, didn't you? All right, girl.
You
I
were
got to
lip-syncing.
tell you, I think lip-syncing is the bomb. In fact, I'm lip-syncing this trivia question right now. Check this out. If you're not hanging out with us on YouTube, you never know that my lips are moving perfectly in time with this announcer guy who has an amazing voice. I know you think I'm awesome, or fat, as the kids say. That's P-H-A-T. Of course, at least kids my age say that. But speaking of fat, Oprah Winfrey,
No.
Let alone. You're getting this all wrong. Oprah's fantastic. Just don't do that. Don't take your mind there. But just follow me here. Oprah, on this day in history, back in 1988, had a fat show. Settle down. P-H-A-T. It was a fat show when she discussed her weight loss and encouraged her viewers to take up the journey as well. To make her point about how important weight loss is to improving your vitality, here's today's trivia question. How many pounds of actual fat, in this case F-A-T, did she wheel out on stage in a cute little wagon thing to make her point? How many pounds of fat did she wheel out on stage? I'll be back right after I go do some jumping jacks. I mean, totally unrelated, but I haven't seen my belt buckle in years.
All right. Well, Doug goes to do that. We're going to start with OG. It's funny. This is forever ago. Talking about going back to Nixon. Like this was a long, long time ago, but I remember this. This was a big.
You would.
This is a big.
You watched Oprah?
Was just a year or two ago.
I have a few questions for the judges first. How many weeks are left in this trivia contest? I have any idea?
Do we got to count this live? We'll get back to you next week. How about that?
Ugh. I want to know. I want to know what I got to do now.
You got to guess.
Okay,
how many pounds of fat?
So So let me just understand the question. Oprah Winfrey lost some weight, and she wanted to demonstrate how much she lost. Is that?
Not necessarily. The question is simply, how many pounds of fat did she wheel out on stage?
I feel like that's got to be related to how much weight she lost.
It could be, but that's irrelevant.
I mean, is that not the topic of the show? Look at how skinny I am. This is how much weight I lost. I don't know. All right, that's what I'm going to go with. So, how much weight did what would be a marked amount of weight? So, like Biggest Loser people, you know, they go from like 250, 280 to like, 180, right? I mean, that's otherworldly. So that would be like 100 pounds, but some of that is muscle mass. Oprah, I'm sure, was not 280 dropping to 180. Probably like 180 dropped to 140 or something. I'm going to say that she demonstrated her personal fat loss of 50 pounds and wheeled out 50 pounds. I'm going to say she lost 50 pounds and went, here's 50 pounds of fat. This is what it looks like.
50 pounds is OG's answer. Jesse, what do you think?
If I'm interpreting the question correctly, she could have been like, and this is how fat you guys all are. And could have been way more. So who knows?
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, my thinking is very much in line with OG, and therefore my initial answer was gonna be very much in line with OG. In my head, I was like, is it 45? Is it 50? Is it 55? So now I'm more thinking game theory, and do I want to box OG in with a mean guess, or do I want to just go off the wall and do something completely different? So I'm gonna go off the wall and do something completely different, and I'm gonna say that she only wheeled out weight to kind of show the audience this is what X pounds of fat looks like. Because like it's probably on you, right? Like, hey, this is on you. So I'm going to say 22 pounds, which I believe was my same answer for the Jim Cramer hedge fund debate. 22 pounds.
22 pounds. Paula, we've got 50 pounds and 22 pounds.
Okay, my thinking is entirely different.
Oh.
So I don't think that the answer relates to any amount of weight that Oprah herself personally lost. The way that Doug asked the question, he said that she wanted to illustrate the effect of weight loss on the health of a human person. I don't remember his exact words, but it was something to the effect of she wanted to demonstrate the significance of fat loss on overall health. So to me, that has nothing to do with her. That is simply here's what losing an amount of weight would do for you, the viewer. So if we take her out of it and think, all right, what is an amount of weight that is large enough that it would be visually interesting on television, yet small enough that it would relate to the average viewer, regardless of if they just had a little bit to lose or a lot to lose. So my thinking, and my initial thinking was maybe 5 pounds. Maybe she just wanted to demonstrate 5 pounds. But the thing is, she wouldn't have to wheel that out on a cart, because if it was only 5 pounds, you could lift that. So so I actually think that the answer is 10 pounds, but in order to capture the under, my official guess will have to be 21.
21. So 22 for Jesse, 21 for Paula to get even less. Oh, geez, way up there at 50.
It's probably like 6,000 or something. or it's like 2, like Paula said. But I've seen the Dr. Oz thing where he goes like, this is 3 pounds of fat. And it's like the big jiggly thing that they have.
Well,
to your point, I don't think they have to wheel that out. They just carry it.
We're about to see. We got the answers locked in. We'll be right back to see who's got this one. OG, you started off with 50. Both Jesse and Paula think that you are way, way, way up there. How are you feeling?
I don't know. I actually think it's low. I think it's gonna be some, multiple of that where she says like, this is how much, the audience has 300 people in the stands. You guys could all lose 10 pounds. 10 pounds of fat is like 3,000 pounds. It's gonna be like this huge amount. Let's all rally together and let's lose this weight. Lose this weight.
We were all
Free
thinking
car
like
for everyone.
Yeah, Jesse.
We were thinking like a Red Ryder wagon of fat, but OG's like a Conestoga. It's like
He's
the
like,
Oregon
yeah,
Trail.
350.
I heard
of fat.
wheelbarrow. Was it
Right.
Did you say wagon? I heard wheelbarrow. I don't know.
Oh, I might have.
That's what I
messed up.
heard. I don't.
I actually was worried that I may have given it away or given you too much of a clue because I threw in a cute little wagon.
Yeah.
Is what I said.
Right.
And then as I was saying it, I thought, oh, I've ruined the whole thing. I did not ruin the whole thing.
Paula, you feeling good? You've got the under.
Yeah. I think the under that is
Especially with cute little red wagon, huh?
Yeah, exactly. That only amplifies why I think it's a small number.
Well, is Paula going to come back and tie Jesse/Mom? Jesse and Mom going to make it a run on OG here at the end of the year, or is OG going to pull further ahead? Doug, what's our answer?
Hey there, stackers. I'm famous trivia lip syncer and your guy with some fat trivia, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Today's question is both fat and fat, if you know what I mean. We asked you before the break how many pounds of fat Benjamin Stacker extraordinaire Oprah Winfrey wheeled out on stage in her cute little red wagon to show proof of the effects of weight loss. The answer, Well, by now, you know, I don't make it that easy. But what I do specifically to annoy OG
Some
is say
doo-doo
that
here.
the
Some
I
doo-doo coming.
is I say that the real answer is 46 pounds more than what Paula guessed, 45 pounds more than what Jesse guessed, and just 17 pounds more than what OG guessed, because the correct answer is 67 pounds of fat, making OG our big fat winner.
And we're not saying PHAT either there, OG.
Not that, I mean, I was gonna, but then he won. So yeah, no, it's just the regular kind.
So it was the amount of weight that she lost.
Yeah,
It
was it what
was
she
the
lost?
amount of weight
Well,
she lost.
67 pounds. That's pretty good. I mean, that's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
You know, to be fair, it wasn't 67 pounds of fat. Some of it was muscle mass.
It is. It is. She talked about how life transforming it is, and all the other things that come with that weight loss, and just a powerful statement when you see that. You think about people walking around, and to your point, OG, did you say this about the like 5 pounds of fat? Like just when they
It's
walk
like a
around with that,
huge
you're
amount.
like, I know, you're like, oh my goodness.
Or as I like
And
to
yet-
say, 17 Oreos.
I look at 17 Oreos and I gain 5 pounds. All right. The second half of this discussion, we're going to dive back in. We've got 2 more here to do. Let's Paula, start with you. Maintain sufficient cash reserves is his third law, personal finance. You put this on the big 4?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, you know, sufficient cash reserves are the only thing that's keeping you out of credit card debt, because there's fluctuation in the amount that you spend every month, and sometimes you log in to your credit card statement and you look at it and it's just way bigger than what you thought it would be, you know, and you're like, was there fraud? And you go through it and you're like, nope, accurate. Darn, no fraud. That was
my
all me.
fault.
Yeah. Right. And you need some cash reserves to tide you over for when that happens.
I prefer that it was fraud. Like I would still tell people it was fraud. No, it was fraud. Somebody got into my wallet and went and bought all this stuff. Jesse, what is a hack or a something to make sure that we get cash reserves? Because, you know, starting to get that money in an emergency fund when you're not used to having one. And I remember when I first tried to do this, that money always seemed to come right back out of the emergency fund, Jesse, very quickly.
Yeah, I get it. I do get it. From that point of view, Joe, I mean, it comes back to the whole spending habit and just a matter of making the decision that building up an emergency fund has to be a higher priority than spending that money down. And maybe it just comes with time, because I know I've talked to some people who will say like, yep, my emergency fund's $15,000. And they have the problem where as soon as they see $16,000 in their account, well, that extra 1,000 is going to get spent. So like for that person, maybe they need to develop a habit afterward to siphon off the extra money and do something more productive with it. But especially when I'm talking to younger people out there who are just building that emergency fund for the first time, I mean, it takes some work. If you're one of the folks that OG was talking about before, and you know, you're already on a lower income than you'd ideally like, and you've got plenty of places where you're spending money just to kind of keep your head above water, and maybe you can only afford to put in $100 or $200 a month away into your emergency fund. Well, it's going to take a long time for you to build up 3 or 6 months of living expenses in that emergency fund. So there's nothing to do though, but keep on grinding, keep your nose down, and do it, because in the long run, as Paula mentioned, it can be a real safety net. And one last note I will say is semantics. This is purely semantics, but I might expand this particular top 4 a little bit to say like, yes, maintain a sufficient cash reserve. I'd expand it just to say like, maintain sufficient safety nets, because there are a few other financial safety nets that people ought to think about and are really important.
Like what? What are you talking about?
Well, I would just think about like basic insurance needs, whether it's health insurance or life insurance if you have a family. But some of those basic safety nets in life, you know, insurance being a safety net for a risk that otherwise your finances couldn't overcome, those have to be pretty high up in the financial priority list.
It's funny you say that, Jesse, because, you know, as people get more assets, it makes sense to lower the amount of insurances that you have, because you can now self-insure. And yet I rarely, when I was a planner, saw that. I would see people that had nothing skimping on insurances because, they were going to take a risk on it because they didn't think they could afford the premium. And those are the people that especially can't afford to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's challenging though. That's a challenge because if you already are struggling in your financial life to then go spend money on insurance that you hopefully won't need anyway, that's a really hard argument to make for someone.
Oh, gee, is there a simple way for us to kind of build a wall between us and these reserves so we only get it if it's an emergency?
Well, I listened to you say the problem is you build it up and then it goes away. I think it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's the whole purpose of it, is to provide that cushion for you to not go into credit card debt with it. And I expand on what Paula was saying before. It's not just the ebbs and flows of the spending, but the timing of the spending. There is very, very, very few people out there who are using cash as their kind of main source of spending. Some people use debit, which, okay, cool, but most people don't do that either, and so the timing of the cash flows also matters, right? So you're spending all this money, and hopefully all the money that you're earning during the time you're spending, you're holding on to then turn around and pay back the money that you spent while you were earning. It's a little different in terms of the timing of the cash flows. And then you drop a large expense in there, all of a sudden, car repair bill or a home repair bill, and all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, the timing got screwed up. So that's why you have to have that extra emergency component. And I'm also with Jesse on this, that there is no fast path to it. It's just going to take a while, and you have to be okay with the fact that it's going to take a little bit. And if you're saving $100 a month and you're trying to accumulate $10,000, well, it's going to take 100 months. It's just, that's the math. So I would try to figure out ways to accelerate that, use bonuses, use, extra income earning, whatever, as an opportunity to kind of get that as quickly as you can, because the cash reserve component is the thing that allows you to do investing.
And again, try to raise your income, like you said earlier.
Yeah. If you don't have an emergency fund, you can't invest, because you'll end up using your investments at the wrong time when something bad happens in terms of your cash flow. Correctly so, not going into debt, but usually, things don't go wrong when the market's up 30%, right? Like, things go wrong when the market's down 30%. And then you're like, well, I put in all this money in my account, it's down. Now I got to take it out because I lost my job. So I've lost money on this endeavor. Investing sucks. It never works. You know what I mean? Like, all the negative emotion that comes with it.
Yeah.
The cash reserve is the thing that gives you the key to the investing room.
So wait, you're saying when I invest in something, I'm not supposed to touch it again after that?
If you touch it too much, Doug.
What?
What did Mom say?
No. Paula, let's talk about one more aspect of this before we move on, which is you've got a section of our audience who's like, yeah, emergency fund, I don't need that. I got access to credit, and even a high yield savings account earns a really crappy return. What do you say to those people?
The purpose of an emergency fund is not to generate a return. So don't evaluate it based on the return that you're getting, because that's not the point of it. When you say you have access to credit, functionally what you're saying is, I'm going to go into debt. And ask anyone who has ever really struggled to come out of debt how much fun that was, and do they want to do that again?
I'm hearing Dr. Phil in your voice there, Paula. How's that working for you?
How's that working for you?
Yeah.
Well, and the other piece to this, Paula, is that, again, you're relying on somebody else to fulfill their obligations, right? Mm. And an unsecured line of credit is just that. It's unsecured. And guess what happens? When do you need your emergency fund? When stuff's going sideways in a hurry, when the economy sucks. What does the bank do when things are going sideways? They contract their lending, and they say, oh, hey, by the way, I know that your credit card limit was 10,000. It's 5. I personally have had this experience where we had a $15,000 limit on a credit card with a $14,980 balance, and we needed to spend $7,000 on the credit card. Like, they had no option to pay any other way other than to charge it. We paid $8,000 on the credit card, and the charge didn't go through. And they're like, yeah, the charge didn't go through. It's not going through. We finally called Discover, like, what's going on? We made $8,000. They're like, yeah, we changed your credit limit. It's now $8,000.
Wow.
Like literally we went from 15 to 8 because we made that $8,000 payment. They're like, oh, thank God.
Wow.
You know, and so relying on that as an option is risky at best, because at any moment, unless they're contractually obligated to give you that line of credit, which guess what? No bank is, they can at any time go, oh, you know what? And there's so many
I feel
algos
like
out
people
there.
I feel like people that say that don't remember 2008 when that
Well,
was
they just may not,
happening
or
all
they
the time.
just weren't part of it. You know, they were in a different part of their lives, perhaps.
Sure.
You know, but the
2008
algos are so
again,
much smarter now than they
16
were
years ago.
I know. They're so much the algorithms know this stuff cold, right? They know what's going on, and they, you know, and all these credit reporting agencies all talk to one another. All the credit bureaus release information to all the lenders. They know what's going on in your life. You know what I mean? Like they've got it pretty well wired. And when all of a sudden they go, whoa, what's going on here? OG usually carries a $20,000 balance. All of a sudden he has 50,000, now 60, now 70. Some bank somewhere goes, I'm out. Not me. I'm not getting stuck with this. You know, cash is your key.
Last one on this list is to systematically and automatically save and invest. I don't think we have to bandy about, as Mom says, this point. I think this one's the one you hear all the time, right? Paula said it earlier, pay yourself first and make it automatic. Let's talk about the thing that OG brought up, though, the confidence, right? If you feel like it's tight, and I don't know a person that doesn't think it's tight. It didn't matter who I met with. Most people thought, man, the budget's pretty tight this month. How do we give them the confidence to systematically and automatically either begin or save more? Paula, what would you say? What's your locker room talk to the team to get them inspired to go save money they're not sure they have?
I'd say start small. So I'm a big fan of what I call the 1% challenge, which is whatever amount you're saving this month, just save 1% more. And so 1% is it's $10 per every $1,000 that you make, right? So if you make $5,000 a month, if that's what you bring home, save $50 this month, 50 additional dollars beyond what you're currently saving. And if you make $6,000 a month, it's $60, right? So just increase your savings rate by an extra 1%, and then do that this month, and then next month do 1% more. And so that way you go incremental. Every month you're saving 1 additional percent. And if every month is too frequent of a time to upgrade, fine. Save 1% and then hold to that for the next 2 months. Just get used to that for 2 months. And then in month 3, ramp it up by an extra 1%. Cool. Go that route.
And after a few months, you're at 100%.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, okay. If you hold for 2 months and then ramp it up by an extra 1%, that means you're saving by the end of the year an additional 6% above and beyond what you're already saving now, right? That's huge.
Which is nice. You just remind me of the meme that says, always give 100% except when giving blood. That's not good. Jesse, let's inspire people beyond what Paula said. How do you inspire somebody to save money they don't think they have?
Well, what I'm about to describe is a play on what Paula just said, because it reminded me of what's happened to me, and it reminded me of a bunch of conversations that I've had before, is that you will reach a point, even if you're starting from zero right now, and even if you are starting slowly, which I recommend too, just like Paula described, you will reach a point when you look at the particular saving. I mean, we're talking investing here, right? Automating investing. So you look at the particular investing account, you'll see a surprising amount of dollars in there. And you'll start to wonder to yourself, like, whoa, suddenly I have $5,000 in this account. It's invested in this thing that I learned about through some smart person online. It's VTI or whatever it may be. It's the Merriman portfolio. And that amount of money invested in a way that you, let's be honest, at this point in your financial life, you don't fully understand. You were just following someone's directions. It'll start to self-perpetuate. Right. And you will essentially begin inspiring yourself to learn more, to save more, to spend less, to do all these things better, because you're starting to see the positive that can happen when you put these ideas into practice. You got $5,000 in the Merriman portfolio. So anyway, that's my inspiration to everybody. Is it can be hard to start, it can be a little bit scary to start, but you will reach a point that we've all reached in our lives when you're like, whoa, this is really working. And that's a fun, inspiring, self-perpetuating point.
OG got the last one. Big locker room pregame speech. What's it going to be?
I was just thinking about this in the context of Paula's 1% component, and I like that a lot. I like the just do a little bit, do a little bit, do a little bit. But I also like playing the other game too. And I know everybody here has gotten a massage before, had a stiff muscle, or a torn whatever, and you just you maybe you have a masseuse or a loved one or somebody. You're like, I got a little, and they go, is it right here? And you're like, oh yeah, it's right there.
Ouch.
It's right there. And they go right here, and they just kind of keep pushing on it, and then finally that pressure releases, right? I think it's equally effective to do the little 1% deal to also go the opposite direction and go, what would be the insane amount of money to save right now? I'm saving $100 a month.
You're going the fire route.
Could I save 1,000? Screw it. Crank that automatic savings up to 1,000. What's the worst that happens? The money goes into your savings account and you go, yeah, that didn't work. I got $1,000 credit card bill. Or that didn't work. I have an $800 credit card bill. Pay your $800 off and boom, you save $200. Just see how far you can stress it before it breaks. And you'll find where that point is very quickly. And you can do this down to the week, right? You don't have to wait a whole month to see the impact. You can say this week's paycheck, I'm putting half away. I'm going to put half into a different account and I'm going to live for this week. And just see what happens. And if you have the opportunity to, you go, well, I wasn't able to, do all that, but I was able to save a quarter, or I was able to save 10% or whatever. It's just an interesting approach or an interesting way to find out where that breaking point is. In conjunction maybe with the other side of it, right? Do the 1% thing, and then also just kind of crank it up every so often just to see where you can stress that.
Can we go back to the massage part? Like, where would one go to find a massage like that? Where they... No.
OF.com/hairy feet pics. Doug's OnlyFans account.
I
like and subscribe
in there, but yes,
smash that like button, hit the bell.
At the end. Normally, at the end of the show, I'm like, that's a great place to leave it. But that's a terrible place to leave us.
Hairy feet pics. No.
My goal is always to say something that I immediately see Joe's face going, can I edit that out?
Let's see.
Is there a spot where I can edit that out?
Space to make that go away in the actual podcast?
How quickly can we get that done? Let's find out, speaking of getting it done, what each of you are getting done in your little area of the universe. OG, this fine November weekend, what do you got going on while you're not doing your sports thingies?
Well, as the kids say, I don't know what they say. I am not skipping my sport activity. I'm powering through. I ain't no fool. I was going to say something a little bit racier, but I'm doing it, man. It's okay. I can't get worse.
Cool.
Can't tear your calf more than once, to my knowledge. I'm no doctor.
You can.
No, I'm pretty sure not. I've researched this.
I love the phrase "I'm no doctor" at the end of that.
I'm no doctor.
While the entire audience goes, "Duh."
But after so get a little weekend here, and then all next week I'm actually with my a bunch of firm owners. Really excited about this. We go every year. There's 8 of us total, and Roger Whitney's part of the group, and a couple other people that have been on the show. And we take a week and we go do a bunch of guy stuff, mostly around golf, but we spend time talking about our businesses and talking about how we can have a better client experience for our clients, better content for the show, that sort of thing. So we this coming week are going to be in Streamsong, which is a golf resort location in Central Florida, south of Orlando a little bit. And
sounds tough.
There's going to be 8 guys who are just up to their eyeballs in tequila and talking shop. So
and you're going to be driving the beer cart.
Can we get some?
Oh boy.
What's that, Dougie?
You're going to be driving the beer cart this year.
I might be. Yeah. I mean, we're recording this 10 days before that. So again, day to day, that's what the trainers have put me at this point. But the doctor, the actual physician who I went to see, he said, what do you got going on? I said, I have this stuff and this, whatever. He says, okay, explosive movements. I said, what about golf? And he just went, no. That was his answer.
That quick.
He went, no.
And cut.
So, so we'll see.
Paula Pant, you hanging out at a girls' weekend with tequila, 4 days, playing golf.
That was last weekend at Paula's birthday party.
No, uneventful. It's an uneventful November after a highly eventful October.
Isn't that always nice? It's so
October,
nice.
I had a whole bunch of family in town. His sister and brother-in-law and niece all came in from Kathmandu. It was for 2 out of 3 of them. It was their first time in the United States.
I think it's pronounced Kathmandu, by the way.
I've heard. So I've heard. So yeah, it was a highly eventful October, like introducing my family to the United States for the first time. And so November is totally low key. I'm doing absolutely nothing.
Fabulous.
Getting
but
ready
you are
for
making
the SB team to show up in December.
That's
exactly. Yeah,
that's right.
It's interval training, right?
That's
like
right.
I gotta rest in November to be ready for December.
Gotta detox to retox.
Exactly.
We got to see if we can get Jesse Cramer downstate to hang out with us as
Come
well.
on down.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Paula's buying us a big dinner at La Barnadine, she said.
Ooh.
Well, December 12th, Stackers, stackingbenjamins.com/meetup. We've got details to come, but and probably by the time this is out, we'll have the details because Doc G is nailing down exactly where we're going to have
You want
the
to come,
meetup.
Doug? We're going to have a little party. Paula's
super excited.
Absolutely do want to come.
Paula, but what's going on at the incredible podcast while you're relaxing?
Oh, on the Afford Anything podcast, we have, let's see, what do we got going on? Paulina Pompliano. She's the author of a book called Hidden Genius, all about like some of the what we can learn from some of the most interesting people. So, if we look at bios of people who have done really incredible things, what can we learn from them? So she is on the podcast talking about that. We've also got, let's see, Matt Schultz, the author of a book on saving more.
Oh, I love Matt.
Yeah. So he talks about, it's a lot of the, foundational principles of personal finance.
And a lot of tactical stuff.
Right,
Cool
exactly.
Tactical stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Actionable, tactical, practical.
And that's at the Afford Anything podcast.
On the Afford Anything podcast.
The finest podcasts are distributed. Jesse, thanks so much again, brother. What's happening at the Better Interest at the Best Interest podcast?
No. Yeah, it is the Better Interest podcast because when our fine stackers are hearing this right now, our most recent episode will have been instructive and surprising questions to ask before you retire, featuring Joe Saul-Sehy.
Shut up. Really?
When Joe appears, it'll be episode 93. We adopt the moniker the Better Interest podcast because if you haven't heard the story, that's what Joel seriously called it 8 times live while recording the episode. The first time he was on. But yes, so we have Joe on to talk about it's a fun retirement conversation. And then I think depending on when stackers hear this, the following episode will be another AMA, which are always big hits.
Those are big hits for I love your AMAs. And by the way, ask Paula. Every time I'm on there, I called it the Afford Whatever You Want podcast. So it's
afford everything.
It's only our brand. It's only our brand, Joe. No big deal.
No. I don't know if you caught it, Joe, but while Jesse was describing the story about how you called it wrong 8 times, he called you Joel.
Oh, I heard it.
Oh, I heard it.
Great.
That was pretty slick. I was impressed.
Look at the time. Thanks to everybody for hanging out with us. Sorry we can't stay. That's going to do it for this week. And Doug, you got it from here, man. What should we have learned on today's show?
Well, Joe, here's what's stacked up on our to-do list for today. First, take some advice from Paula, who had that amorphous idea about setting goals. Paula, can you amorphosize that thought for our listeners again? And B, what does amorphous mean?
Well, so I said that the idea of making money feels a little bit amorphous, meaning vague. But if you want some specifics, what you do is you get Doug to set up an OnlyFans account, and then you,
man. Oh.
Right back
and then
at me.
you take a cut of Doug's OnlyFans, and that's how you make money.
We got to cut the hair on those feet.
I still don't know what that word means.
I think
Second,
that's
how about that thing OG said about changing your savings rate when you finally hit the big time? I mean, it brought me to tears. Can you say the thing about the
just
stuff again, OG?
Absolutely. Just like when you go to the masseuse and they put their thumb right on it, just drill it in there.
Oh,
just
yeah.
find out where the pain is.
Oh,
Feels
so
so
good.
good. Feels so good to find where the pain is.
That could have been a mic drop moment, but do you know the big lesson for today? Here it is. Never tell Joe's mom anything about being fat. Fat with the PA. She's going to tell you you're mid and you got zero riz. Man, seniors these days. Thanks to Jesse Cramer for joining us today. You'll find the best interest podcast wherever you're listening to us right now. Really, I promise. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to the finest podcasts. And the best news, you can afford all of her podcasts because they're free. Incredible deal. And finally, thanks to OG for joining us. Looking for good financial planning help? Head to stackingbenjamins.com/OG for his calendar.
Awesome. We did it. You know what's funny is that in our chat, it didn't show up that we had any chats on YouTube. We didn't have everybody chatting. We had a bunch of people chatting. TJ talks about neighbor Doug digging his own grave, which is as usual.
What?
Elwinda says, oh my, watch that episode for homework. It's funny because I didn't see these as they came in, so I apologize, everybody. Eddie is with us in London. Says the power of compounding and starting saving early is the 8th wonder of the world. Totally agree.
Good eye, mate.
And Katie says, a former massage therapist and Rolfer here.
Rolfer. Oh, rolfing is great.
What?
I
She
feel
rolling
like
on the floor laughing?
rolfing is
What
something
that?
I did at 2:30 in the morning after too much beer.
Too many scoops of coleslaw. Birthday coleslaw.
That's it.
Is that your 50th birthday, Joe? Was that what that was?
And Katie, by the way, says thumb, elbow, baby. You put the elbow in it.
Oh my gosh, the elbow. Oh,
Do you like that? Do you actually like that? Because I hate it.
it's so great. I remember so there we had the chair massages. I went to a chair massage in the airport one time, and you know, there's different people, and you don't really pick. You're just like, hey, do you have time for 20 minutes? And this huge dude rolls out, right? And I'm going, okay. I mean, usually it's a lady, but whatever. It's fine. And he just like goes,
You're nothing if not open-minded.
exactly. He goes, how hard do you want it?
Oh, no.
And I said,
Oh, no.
I can take whatever you can give. And he goes, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like tears are streaming down my face as like every knot in my lower back is being, you know, I could just imagine this 300-pound dude with his elbow right on my back.
It's like you're on the massage version of Hot Ones.
I don't know what that is. What are
That's that thing where they have the guest eat the hotter and hotter wings.
Yeah, that's exactly.
And as they're talking.
Yes, I was
But you're
totally
the
like, oh
massage
yeah, I can
version.
do it, bruh. Yeah, man, I'm good. And he's like, we'll see about that.
Yeah.
Silly little child.
Yes,
That's fabulous.
I
Thanks,
work out very
thanks
hard.
TJ, by the way.
It was
TJ
awesome.
said, nice job, kids.
Oh.
Thanks for hanging out with us.
cool.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Team, hold on with me while we say
Wanna-
goodbye here.
I want to go.
How
Day
hard
off.
do you want it?
How hard. It was so funny. I was like, nice line, buddy.